Welcome to This Week in Coworking, where industry leaders get succinct, actionable insights.
This is a Behind the News episode. I am your host, Hector Kolonas, and today I am joined by the formidable Andrea and Wybo over at InfinitSpace. How are you both doing?
Fantastic. Thank you, Wybo. Absolutely fantastic. It's a beautiful day here in Connecticut, and delighted to be here with you, Hector. Thank you.
Hector, thank you so much for having us. Everything is well here in Amsterdam. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity to have this conversation with you.
Of course, thank you both for joining in. You were in a newsletter a couple of weeks ago. You made a really interesting move. We'll get into exactly what that is. But before we do that, tell us a little bit more about what is the InfinitSpace mission? What is it you guys are up to in this world of co-working that we all share?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. So the mission is really about bringing people together. If you need to be at work anyway, then let's bring as many people from different backgrounds, religious, cultures, ages together, different industries, knowledge and passion, and actually give everyone the opportunity to get more out of life than purely just come to work and be productive. There's so much more to it. I truly believe if you interact with people you've never met before, it probably gives you a much better opportunity to learn from others as well. What we really want to get out of every single location that we open is that we create a positive impact into people's lives. And it really is about human connection and creating caring communities. It goes back to my childhood, if I'm honest. I grew up at a very small village, about 3,000 citizens, like the front door of the house and the back door of the house. And basically everyone was caring for each other, no matter the religion or your background. We were all very small community and people like looked after each other. If there was a party, people would come together and celebrate life. That's something that stayed really close with myself. Basically want to bring those small villages everywhere we possibly can.
I love that. I love this idea of creating the village. It's a conversation I've had many times over the last couple of weeks, especially as we've gone from having a village to having to rent a village. So I love this idea of trying to bring people together into space, into communities. If you have to go to work anyway, you might as well go somewhere where there's a community. Before we dive any deeper, you both have had a very extensive and amazing and inspiring career in co-working and flex. Do you mind just telling people a little bit more about what your co-working story has been so far before the InfinitSpace mission?
So my life and experience within co-working flexible workspace is nothing compared to Andrea. Look, I've been managing director previously at WeWork, right? Back in 2015 at the start of the international expansion. There were like 33 locations, most of them in the US, one in London, one in Amsterdam, one in Tel Aviv. And I joined as managing director responsible for the expansion in Northern Europe. Had the pleasure to join that roller coaster for 4 years, opened 50 locations in Germany, the Netherlands, but also Belgium and Scandinavia. But really the flexible workspace, the community side of it, because bringing people together in all these different locations and no matter the culture, at the end, we're all social animals. Like we're really like longing for being part of something bigger and being in those locations every time again, you would experience the same element, the same energy, the same vibrancy of people from different backgrounds coming together. And that really inspired me to continue, but do it in a different way in working together with landlords. And that's how we decided to go for an InfinitSpace. But again, my experience in flexible workspace and co-working, it's only 8-9 years. Rest of the time was always in hospitality.
That's awesome. And Andrea, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history up until now?
Sure. I joined this category back in 1999 when it was really unknown. I like to say we birthed a category and we birthed a brand. I was at the helm of Regus, running marketing across the Americas and then ultimately across 65 countries. We opened up one location a week for the first 2 years that we were in business, and I was a member of the leadership team that grew it from 200 million to $1 billion in revenue in 5 years. After that, though, I didn't like steering $1 billion ship. I like growth. I like startups. I like building. And so I left. I left without a job. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I bought and flipped a house. And I thought, ooh, this isn't so interesting. I miss co-working. I miss the bug, you know? And so, but the category was so fragmented. Quite frankly, nobody could afford me at the time.
Right.
And so I thought, well, if one company can afford me, I'm going to work for everyone. And so I just worked for all Regis's competitors. And I had this incredible opportunity to work for all different flavors and types of models. I must have worked for, more than 30 brands across 65 countries. It's been a joyride to see this category grow from something that was completely unknown, to have this vision and to have this dream to make office spaces transactional as a hotel room, which it now is, and readily accepted. This whole idea of community is absolutely in my DNA. It is a place where we bring people together. It is a place where innovation happens, where that little spark of magic happens when you're together and when humans connect that just don't happen virtually. I could not be more delighted to join InfinitSpace because I will say that the innovation in this category has really always come from across the pond. Maybe that's controversial, but it has. And I always see them as being 1 to 2 years ahead, especially in the UK. You can see in the saturation of co-working versus traditional commercial leasing, the saturation is so much more incredibly dense there. The innovation is happening there when you look at the product. There was really no other opportunity that I would have considered than to work with Wybo, Wilco, and the InfinitSpace team to bring that product over here to the US. Very exciting.
It's something we've been definitely following for a while here at the newsletter. If you go over to the InfinitSpace brand profile, you'll see that we've covered the shifts and moves and expansion of this network for quite some time. But you bring up a very interesting point, Andrea, and that is the innovation that InfinitSpace is doing. There is something different at the model level. We've talked about the vision, the mission. How does InfinitSpace actually work? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's mostly through landlord partnerships and then a combination of technology and operational expertise to make this shit work. What is the secret sauce in InfinitSpace? What makes it different as a category leader, in your own opinions?
Thank you so much for asking. So, in all honesty, I don't think there's much different. Like, what we basically provide is any landlord the opportunity to create their own flexible workspace brand and stay in ownership and in control of their own square foot, their own square meters, their own asset, their own yield and the experience. And I think it should always have been like this. If you decide to welcome companies of all kind of different sizes, the only reason why it wasn't possible because there wasn't a platform, there wasn't a solution that would allow a fund, a real estate fund, an asset owner to operate a flexible workspace really seamlessly, smooth with the technology in place. And that's what we decided to build. So therefore, owner isn't somebody who is experienced in real estate, but has been a tech entrepreneur for 20 years, built tech companies successfully. Luckily, also a few. If we want to create so many communities, if we want to provide a positive change and a positive impact into people's, it's never going to work out by signing leases everywhere. It's about helping landlords, asset managers to create their own space and be in control of it and allowing people to come in and really create that hub, that village in their own asset. And that's what we basically changed. So indeed, it's partnership models. We work on behalf of landlords and we really help that platform, the integration, and of course also the whole back office to really seamlessly operate those locations.
Love to expand upon that. And it is so true. I mean, if you look at, when we think of product market fit, right? It's all about product market fit. And I would say about 20 years ago, I wrote an article about the current logic of real estate is dead, right? I was probably a little bit aggressive, maybe a little bit before my time, but it truly is. I mean, there's a total incongruence with what occupiers want and what landlords are offering. And we're seeing that with soaring vacancy rates. We're seeing that with really challenged markets. We're seeing that with no longer people signing 10-year leases. The average is now 7 years. We're seeing a 33% decrease in the size of spaces that people are leasing. And landlords on their own right now are hamstrung, right? Because they have one flavor, one model that is not congruent and does not fit the needs of the market. And so what we're saying is, hey, let us come into your asset. Let's look at the asset. Let's understand how we can install Flex into your asset and say yes to all requirements that walk through that door. All requirements, whether it's 55 square feet, whether it's a day, whether it's 10,000 or a full floor, and whether they want a month or 10 years. Let's open up the door and see how we can align your product with what the market needs today. And it's not just individual users, right? It is AT&T, it is Salesforce, it is, Fox Network. It's all these major corporations who have millions of square feet that they're looking at their portfolios and they're trying to figure out how to right size what to do with those portfolios.
We are seeing that gap between, I know I have the space, I know there is demand, but I do not know how to service it. And I guess that's where InfinitSpace comes in. And I did see Wybo lift up a mug that had one of the brands that you guys have in the offering. Tell me a little bit more about this brand strategy. Wybo did mention that the landlord can pick their own brand. How are you seeing the split? Are more landlords trying to create their own entities, or are they buying into a Beyond or another brand?
Yeah, so our product, the service that we provide to landlords is really a tech-enabled, white label, flexible workspace brand. So any landlord either to one location of that one brand or multiple locations of that one brand, but of course also to come on board on the Beyond brand. And the Beyond brand currently has a network of 9 locations, 4 in London, 3 in Amsterdam, 2 in Berlin, and actually is really being recognized now as a place where companies can find a place, but also still has a boutique style. So the fit out of each single Beyond location comes in the same color schemes, but the way that it's been set up, the way that it's being added as an additional space within an asset is completely different in every single location. You will experience seamless access, the way that the app functions, and of course the hospitality element and all the services connected to it. So what we currently see is that most landlords already have accepted that they would like to have a flexible workspace in their own asset because they understand that they can now welcome every single tenant, from a freelancer that maybe comes in once an hour a month, all the way to that enterprise company that maybe only new for months and not for 10 years or 7 years. But you actually have the opportunity to have a wide range of different tenants, which actually gives you a much better base, a much better tenant base, and much more stabilized financial income. And of course, the added value. And by having the added value, there's also a potential premium or market rent, which we deliver. In those conversations, immediately, like the decision comes into the Beyond brand, because the beauty about Beyond is to have the Beyond brand building name connected to it. And of course, the building name, it's where landlords, funds managers already have poured quite a significant amount of marketing. There's a website, there's brochures. It's already known within the brokerage scene as well. So why take that name away from it? Just basically connect to that global brand Beyond. And then you have 2 beautiful brands that become a partnership and actually really represent a quality and a great experience.
Going back to what Andrew was saying earlier, it's something that we have seen innovation-wise grow really popular in Europe. We've seen other operators following a similar model, whether it's Space Made over in the UK and a few others, where they really trying to figure out, initially everything was white label, but then their value became so good that people started associating the brand Space Made or Beyond with the actual offering, that now landlords are like, okay, well, we want that brand as well. So you've gone kind of full circle to being, well, we're white label, but hey, you probably want to use our brand because of all the other benefits. I have so many more questions around the tech stack, reciprocal memberships, all of that stuff. But before we geek into that, Andrew, I wanted to ask you, do you think the Beyond brand or the white label approach is going to be more popular with US landlords and asset managers?
When I met with Wybo, I love his take on brand. I mean, I'm a brand person, right? And so I was just so taken by his brand strategy and thought to myself, my goodness, I would not have thought about that. I think the power of the Beyond network is the core differentiator. So it doesn't matter if it's a white label, because what happens is you go into the asset, the fit out weaves beautifully into the brand of the building, right? Which Wybo had mentioned, they've spent all this time, all this money investing and building up the equity in their asset, right? So we're just amplifying that. So we're coming in and we are adding vibrancy, we're adding NOI, we're adding footfall, we're adding all those great things within the asset, and then we're tying it to our global network. And quite frankly, nobody else is doing that. Everybody else is going into the asset, building up their own brand, separate from the landlord, separate from the asset owner. And that's a core differentiator for us. And it's going off like wildfire across the pond. And now I can come to America with an in-bed international network already that, again, adds value to the tenant or to the occupier experience. Why wouldn't you want to have the name of your building, your address, and Beyond right next to it? I think it's a powerful differentiator.
I was very curious. I know that you've got 4 locations in America opening up, and then you've got another 2 in Canada. Is that correct? And then I think there was one more that I'm missing. Is that what's on the roster for the next 12 months? At least that is public.
Well, so we have quite the bold growth plan. As said, right, I go back to my youth, being able to create a positive impact into people's life and opening as many communities and locations as possible through those partnership models. We really want to scale this fast because if you ask me, I think the world needs some positive impact. And if we can create those moments, those environments, and create that ripple effect at the moment that people walk out of our buildings and they have that positive mindset and want to do something else without expecting anything in return, why would we stop at 10 buildings, 20 buildings, 50 buildings? Like, this is a opportunity that we can scale. It's a tech platform that we can integrate quite easily. And as Andrea already mentioned, it's the fact that we operate with our landlords in their space and not like build something separately from the rest of the design of that building wise, a good product to scale. So yes, we made that announcement. And I think the most important announcement is actually having Andrea as part of our team. That's something that we could only dream of, having somebody with so much experience, so much knowledge to come on board and help us scaling in the Americas. Yes, the announcement that we made, absolutely, we're just getting started.
I love that. And I have a question actually about that, because given that you were part of the WeWork roller coaster, one of the biggest problems is also when it comes to hyperscaling, right? There are huge swaths of office inventory available in America, much of which is essentially underwater. Much of it is probably not your Class A, Class B buildings. What are your criteria around where Beyond fits best? Because you can't take everyone. You can't be in every single building, because even if you are, it waters down the one across the street, right? Is there going to be some sort of filtering? Who are you looking to partner with and why?
Well, I'll hand it over because I'm sure Andrea has a lot to say about this. In my mind, it's really about there should be a demand already. Demand for community, workspace, and the opportunity for the entrepreneurial spirit, whether that's a freelancer, startup, scale up, all the way to enterprise, and that ecosystem coming together. That's the international aspect as well. Currently, it's really driven by demand. The reason that we're entering the Americas, the US, is because companies, that have origins in San Francisco, now jumping across the pond to London and Amsterdam and Berlin and knocking on our door and vice versa. So if we can have these opportunities already to create those spaces so they have the same experience for employees in these different cities, that is fantastic. We work with landlords, institutions that have quality buildings. The demand that they're getting is shorter term, preferably fitted out space that is easy to come in and bring your team in. And there's no 6 months of legal negotiations. It's actually easy to use and ready for move in tomorrow.
Andrea, anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, for ages, we've been saying that they should be putting 5-10% of their portfolio into flex space. And if you just did a little bit of back of the envelope math, and if you took the top 10 occupiers in the globe, and if they just put a fraction, a couple of percentages of their portfolio into flex space, there would not be enough flex space across the globe, across all providers to satisfy that demand. And right now, stats are saying that on average, you've got 40% of employees show up to the office every day. And if you just say it's $50 a square foot per employee, these companies are losing on an average 50,000 square foot location, $2.5 million. It's crazy the money that they're losing as a result of this misalignment between space and what their employees need. And so my feeling is eventually you can have one Beyond across the street from the other Beyond. Why not? You have Starbucks 2 blocks away from another Starbucks, and that's the dream, right? And so, yes, we have to be discerning, just to mirror what Wybo said. Of course, we have to be discerning into which markets that we go. We're a tech-forward company. We're going to go into tech-forward cities. We have to be discerning in terms of the partnerships that we have with the landlords, because this has to be hand in glove. This can't be, hey, we're flex and you're traditional. It has to be one feeding the other. Truly, let's work together to fill this building, whether it is a small space and shorter term requirement or a large space requirement. And so the fit there has to be right. There has to be a cultural fit and a commitment to making it work. So we have, I'm sure you can imagine with this announcement, my phone has been ringing off the hook. And thankfully, we have a team who's prepared and ready to go and ready to do performance and ready to do test fits and ready to get out and do these deals and satisfy this need, because the need is there.
I completely agree. And I love this idea of having every block having 5, 6, 7 co-working spaces or co-working brands. But it does make me wonder, will we see more brands from InfinitSpace? Will we see a Beyond that is the premium enterprise brand, and then a Beyond Light, which is the more economy focused as opposed to all the polished bells and whistles? Because I do think that if you have two opposite each other that have different quality sets, you then have that conflict of, as we see in some other regions, not every WeWork is the same, not every Regus is the same. And so how are you thinking about balancing that as you expand across the Americas?
I always take Amazon as the example. Jeff Bezos, incredibly driven by, you should listen to the customer, and the customer decides how your product is going to be experienced and what you sell and how it's going to be sold, etc. So in my opinion, it's not what I think or anyone else in the team thinks or one of our partners. It's really driven by demand. And that's the more locations that we operate, the more that we understand how different organizations, because there's no one size fits all, how different organizations use space, what they require, what is important to them, of course, also financially. So I'm not saying it's never going to happen. We're going to say no, or it's going to happen. It's going to be driven by demand. That's how simple it is. Because same for office space. What we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, what is currently creating this change in how we use office space is because it's driven by demand. Companies don't take large floor plates anymore and commit for long-term lease agreements. They want to real estate that's flexible, that they can adjust to the way that their business operates and what's happening externally as well. So you can actually make those changes when it's actually required in order to provide the best environment for your staff, for your team members.
That makes a lot of sense. Now I'm going to go back to the tech side. I know that neither of you are holding the CTO role in the company, but I'm going to dig into it a little bit because I'm Hector, and who would I be if I didn't geek out about some of the tech stuff? You said that you were a tech-focused company or a tech-forward company. Commercial real estate is not that tech-forward. I'm going to say that. It might be a surprise to some people. How are you thinking around working with existing legacy tech? So America has a lot of landlords with a lot of very old technology. You bringing in a new piece of technology that has to plug into that. Are you worried at all about how your technology and an Excel sheet that can't be touched on a Tuesday or everything switches off? How are these things going to connect? And what is the strategy for rolling this out across the Americas?
Well, I'm pretty sure whatever I'm going to say, Volko, my brother's CTO, is going to kill me because I said it completely wrong. No, but what worries me every single day is just simply the experience of everyone in our buildings, and whether that's just physical space and the fit out and the quality of it and the cleanliness, etc., and the hospitality. That worries me every day. But the other part is, of course, 50% of it is how you experience and how easy it is to experience, and that's where tech comes in. And of course, there's two parts of it. It's the user experience, what you, me, and everyone else in that space experiences, and how easy it is to indeed have access to one of the Beyond locations or to another Beyond location, how easy it is to actually connect with a member in London or in Berlin and already have the opportunity to explore a partnership. The way how easy it is to use different promotions of different partners, including restaurants and cafes and hotels, like close to a Beyond location. But the most important part is how can we actually already understand how people use space so we can actually also create that environment. And that really is about listening, and listening, of course, like we can have those conversations, but having the tech in place and also on the AI side to understand how people actually use space in London differently than, for example, we cannot be the company that comes in. We understand how you work, and that's why we're going to roll out exactly this, like this floor plan everywhere, exactly the same. That's never going to work. So what worries me is that we constantly indeed need to make sure that we listen to our clients, to our customers, to make sure that we create the best environment. And the best environment is physically and tech. It needs to be run seamlessly together. And then the last part, of course, is the whole back office, is making sure that payments are being done seamlessly, reporting systems are in place, easy access to our landlord partners so they have immediately insight in what's happening in our locations and they understand what's happening. So any of our partners can also connect to any of the members via the app. They can check in how many tickets come in about cleanliness or anything else. It's completely transparent and open because it's a partnership. And the only way by being a partner is just like being open to each other, being in a marriage, and making sure that we connect, we talk, and how can we actually improve the overall experience for everyone in a certain environment. Because long term, people don't want to leave.
I actually want to pick up on that a little bit more because one of my pet peeves with the rent arbitrage model of co-working is you go through this whole online app process. It's all seamless. It all feels great. You're welcomed. You get, confetti when you make the booking. You walk into the door and they're like, ID, please. You give your ID. They give you a piece of paper. You fill in a piece of paper. You have to stand in a lobby for 6 minutes wondering what they're doing with this piece of paper. Then a turnstile opens and they're like, go press the button. Then you get upstairs and then you check in to see the person. I'm like, why does this not all work? And obviously it's because it's disconnected from who runs the rest of the building. And so this is where I'm hoping that brands like yours come in and truly make that street to suite experience work, because it's holding so many of the on-demand demand offline, right? We can't really sell truly accessible space if there is these random friction points that we cannot control between when the booking was made and people walking in and sitting down where they booked. So I'm not sure if there's really a question in there, but I just wanted to get that off my chest because I'm like, finally, we're seeing the shift. And historically, it's always been in assets that the owner manages. So the Tishmans of the world, the Expansives of the world, that kind of world. Are you finding that landlords want to play nice when you come in? You're like, it's great, we're going to partner, but we need you to fix that damn piece of paper at the front desk. How are you guys finding the response to that?
Well, to be honest, the landlords, our partners, like the reason why we're having this conversation, because they are open to innovation. I have a great example. Yesterday, I sent an email to our partners. They get a short email from me. I mentioned that we now have an AI implementation department. And so we're bringing different AI integration in the operational side, but also in the sales side. And we actually offered a free of charge AI introduction session to our partners, like anyone who is open to it. Within the hour, I got responses for everyone because everyone wanted to be part of this. And it just showcases it's part of innovation. And we're your partner to bring that knowledge with us. Like there's no additional fees attached to it. The more we understand what innovation can do for the overall experience, the better it is for every single vendor, client, landlord, and ourselves, but at the end, the customer, because it's constantly being improved. And the only way to do so is sharing knowledge. Exactly what happens in our communities, it's what we do with our partners too.
There's Yeah, it's just a good way to see it. Like it's so against everything, or not against, the opposite of some of the things I see, especially here in New York, where everyone's like, ours. We'll give you access to this for $1 billion, or we'll tell you how to do this if you sign this 62-year contract. Very, very much like what we do here at This Week in Coworking, getting great people in to share what you're doing differently, and how people can get involved. On that note, how can people get involved with what you're doing, both here in the US and in Europe? Where should people reach out to you? How can people get in touch and partner up?
Yeah. I'll be here in Connecticut. I'll be in San Francisco. I'll be in Austin. I'll be, all around the country. Contact me on LinkedIn. We're here. If you are if you're an owner and you want to explore how to partner with a premier flex provider to add value to your asset, to increase NOI, to add vibrancy, footfall, to provide an amenity to your building, to say yes to every opportunity that walks through the door, call me. If you're a broker who's forward thinking and really gets it and understands this model, call me.
Love that. And we will make sure to get you both back on in a couple of months, maybe, to see how the rollout is going. Thank you both for joining me today, for sharing your insights. Take care and good luck with the rollout.
Thank you, Hector.
Hector, thank you so much.